Alright, I'm gonna go over my setup here just to make sure everything's looking the right way. So, still having the idle issue. So just want to make sure we understand how everything is set up. So over here on the intake, obviously my filter. So this is the 90 millimeter Ford Lightning mass airflow meter. There's a gasket in here, a little aluminum adapter plate for the 4-inch air filter. This is just the part of the JLT kit here, and then the elbow into the throttle body. So on this intake tube right here, this is actually a stock Ford inlet air temperature sensor. It's mounted in a grommet, as you can see, and the holes for the grommet is all the proper sizing, so everything's in there very snug. I don't believe there should be any air leaks. This guy right here, I guess this is probably a crankcase ventilation, so this is off the passenger side valve cover, and this also feeds into a little, it's kind of hard to see, there's a 90-degree fitting where this hose runs into the air intake tube. It also has a grommet. Everything's nice and airtight, apparently. So then there's one more on the air intake tube underneath. This is actually a 3/4 inch hose right here, and it's got a fitting. That fitting's also drilled and has a grommet, so it's also very snug and airtight. So that hose right there, that 3/4 inch hose that I'm touching, that runs underneath here. You can see where it comes back out. So that feeds into the IAC valve. This is a brand new IAC valve. It's a Ford Motorcraft part. This is not like the Cobra IAC valve that's got the 2 holes on the back. This one just has the 1 single hole on the back because it feeds the air in from the front. So the air comes in the IAC valve, goes through the valve, and then comes out this fitting right here. So this aluminum plate right here is just an adapter that gives me a way to mount the power steering fluid reservoir, and it also is drilled excuse me, it's also drilled for the IAC valve, just like a remote mount for the IAC valve. And then there's a plastic fitting, a threaded fitting, and this aluminum adapter is threaded to accept the fitting, and then the fitting is barbed so it fits this hose, and then this hose feeds into the intake manifold. So the IAC valve is measuring the air between the intake prior to the throttle body and comparing it to the air after the throttle body on the intake manifold. This fitting right here is a factory fitting. That's the OEM fitting off the Ford manifold, and the hose fits tight right over the fitting. That's all airtight also. This guy here is, I think, also just like a crankcase ventilation. This is a brand new Ford part, so that's all got nice fittings. I don't think that should matter with the IAC though. So it's a throttle body off a 03 Cobra, so it's cable driven, obviously. You can see, let me get my light over here. So you can see how I have the screw on the throttle body is hiding under there. I got the double nuts on it so I can adjust it in and out. There's just a tiny little bit of screw thread hanging out on that side, maybe about 3/16 of an inch. So the screw is, I guess it's out kind of far. I don't really know where it's supposed to be. That's what we're working on with the tune right now. A couple other things to note electrically. So the harness for the IAC down here, it clips in. You know, the electrical connector clips in real tight. This wires I had to extend, so I routed those under the throttle body, and they come out back to the factory harness over here. All of the wiring extensions are using solder, and the heat shrink connections, the ones where you heat up the solder connection, it solders it, and then the heat shrink seals it. So I had to extend that one for the IAC valve. I had to extend this one right here. This also goes under the throttle body. This one actually snakes down below, down here, and plugs in. You can see it hiding down there, the camshaft position sensor. I'll try to point to it. Okay, right there. The camshaft position sensor on the passenger side. I also had to extend the wire for this inlet air temperature sensor back to the factory harness down here. And then there was another one. Oh, I had to extend the harness for the fuel rail pressure sensor. This is actually these are the 3-valve fuel rails, obviously. This is an adapter plate, so you can use the I believe, yeah, the 2-valve fuel rail pressure sensor. This car started its life, it's a 2001 Bullet, so the wiring harness is probably a little bit different than a regular GT, just because, you know, the wire connections might have been in different places because of the way the stock Bullet intake manifold was. So anyway, man, that's my setup. Hopefully that helps us figure out if everything's good to go, not just from an air leak standpoint, but also electrically. Thank you.